There was a feast of the Jewish, and Jesus went up to Jerusalem. Now, there is in Jerusalem at the sheep gate a pool called in Hebrew Bethesda, with 5 porticos. In this lay a large number of ill, blind, lame, and crippled. One man was there who had been ill for 38 years. When Jesus saw him laying there, and knew that he had been ill for a long time, he said to him, "Do you want to be well?" The sick man answered him, "Sir, I have no one to put me into the pool when the water is stirred up. While I'm on my way, someone else all gets down there before me." Jesus said to him, "Rise, take up your mat, and walk." Immediately the man became well, took up his mat, and walked. Now, that day was the Sabbath, so the Jews said to the man who was cured, "It is the Sabbath, and it is not lawful for you to carry your mat." He answered them, "The man who made me well told me, 'Take up your mat and walk.'" They asked him, "Who is the man who told you, 'Take it up and walk'?" The man who was healed did not know who he was, for Jesus had split away since there was a crowd there. After this, Jesus found him in the temple area and said to him, "Look, you are well. Do not sin anymore, so that nothing worse may happen to you." The man went and told the Jews that Jesus was the one who had made him well. Therefore, the Jews began to persecute Jesus because he did this on a Sabbath. The Gospel of the Lord. Praise to you, Lord Jesus Christ. One can be ungrateful, unfortunately. The number of people who do not know how to thank God for the gifts that God has given them is abundant. But there is a group of people, I don't know if they are so abundant, I don't think so, but they exist, who not only do not thank God, but they turn God's gifts against God. An example is this: the sick person who was being cured by Jesus and who goes after him cured after received that great gift, the great favor, that great miracle after having been sick there for 38 years, prostrate, waiting for someone to do him a terrible and putting him in the pool, and there was no way he could find anyone. After that, he goes and denounces Jesus to the priest, knowing that this could create a problem for him. Besides, he didn't even need to. They had already interrogated him. They had already let him go. And then he went to denounce Christ. He who had received the help is of Christ. He turns against God, the gifts of God. That is why the Lord tells him, be careful because you have been healed. But something worse can happen to you. There are not only diseases of the body, but diseases of the soul, sins. Be careful because sin is worse than a disease of the body. When we see a case like this, I am sure that, without exception, we all say what a bad person this man was who denounced Jesus after having received a miracle. I am sure that the condemnation is unanimous. He is a bad person. Then we have to make an examination of conscience, about our own behavior. How am I? What do I do with the gifts that God has given me? Do I put them at the service of God, or do I use them against the one who has given me those gifts? Life, youth. I have the great gift of being alive and of having directly at least years ahead of me. What do I do with that gift? Culture. I have been able to study. What do I do with the gift I have received, and that many times is the result of the effort of others who have had sacrificed themselves so that I could carry out those studies? What do I with the gifts I have received? What do I do with the gifts that I have received? What am I doing with what I have received? Any of us, for sure, if we feel victimized by someone like that, who will be very upset with him. You have done a great favor. You have saved someone's life, and that person, instead of thanking you, that which you have given him turns against you, and he will be very upset with that person. Well, that is what they probably do with God without realizing it. What am I doing with the gifts I have received? Let us do a review, an examination of conscience. What has God given me? So much. It may be that He would have liked that He had not given us more things that we do not have and that others have. Well, the Lord is not going to ask one who has given Him 5 the same as He has the one who has given Him 10. The one who has given Him 10, He will ask for 10. The one who has given Him more will be asked more. You examine what God has given you. You do not have the intelligence of that one. Well, you will not be asked to perform according to that intelligence. You examine what God has given you. What has He given you? And how are you responding to that before God and also before the people who have contributed to give you that as a second causes? While it is God who gives us everything, those people have been the mediators, for example, our parents, our friends, people who influence your life through the exercise of their profession, a teacher, a doctor, a friend. How are you giving back the love you have received? What are you doing? The worst thing that could happen is not only that you have not been grateful, but that you could return against that person who has been good to you what he has given you, and this case is certainly not rare. I am not saying that it is a very abundant. It is an exceptional case. It is not the only one in the gospel, right? But it is a case that exists and it is not rare. People turn against God, the gifts of God, or against their parents, the gifts of their parents who have worked so hard for them, and then forget about them and leave them aside. They even ridicule them because they did not have the intellectual level that they have reached, thanks to the effort and sacrifice of those parents who they now consider inferior. What have I done with the gifts of God? What do I do with the gifts of God? What do I do with the help, with the favors, with the love that I have received from other people? Am I giving as much as I have received? Because if I don't do it, I am someone who has a debt, and the words of Jesus are valid. That will be taken away from you. It will be taken away because I have not known how to be grateful. It will be taken away from you, and that, moreover, will become for you something worse because you will have committed the sin of lack of gratitude, the sin of injustice. May that not happen to us. Amen.